Some may not like the rules, but it is what it is. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about U.S. Olympian track and field star Sha'Carri Richardson possibly not going to the Olympics, or she may have her Olympics negatively impacted due to a positive marijuana test. Now, there's quite a few avenues I need to cover here. First thing, obviously, is the issue of weed. Some say it's just a plant. She shouldn't have been suspended. And some are going to say, well, look, it's a banned substance. You know what the rules are, so that's your fault. And then there's the issue of hypocrisy, because you can't smoke weed and go to the Olympics, but you could be a biological male and compete against biological women. How does that make any sense? What part of the game is that? We'll talk about all those things in just one moment. But first, I got to back up a little bit here to explain to you what's going on, to give you some context, just so we're on the same page with each other. Now, Sha'Carri Richardson, 21 years old, a track and field phenom, an excellent runner. I enjoy watching her. She's only about 5'1", but like a rocket, real fast. And my humble opinion, she would be the front runner to win gold in the women's 100-meter dash. So she's a great track and field athlete. I don't see any woke stuff from her. She's part of the LGBTs, but she's not wearing that on her sleeve. You understand what I'm saying? And she's not like Gwen Berry, who is anti-American, but that's a different story, and I digress. The whole point is that I like what she brings to the table. Skilled athlete. I don't see any problem. Unfortunately, she decided to smoke some weed, and she was drug tested after her June 19th race, and she popped positive. Now, here's where the controversy starts. She is not banned from the Olympics, just suspended, and I'll explain. A 30-day ban for her started back on June 28th, and it'll end on July 28th. The Olympics start July 23rd and end August 8th. So if any of her races come in that 5-day period in which she's still suspended and when the Olympics starts, so that's what, July 23rd to July 28th. If any races happen in this little time frame, she can't perform in it because she's still suspended. However, if any of them happen after, then she can perform because she will not be suspended anymore. Now, some are going to say this is unfair, ABL, because Michael Phelps, he popped positive for whatever, and he was still able to compete, still able to get gold medals, all this, that, and the third. Well, that's not entirely true. That's not, you got to give context on that as well, because Phelps was suspended, and not just for 30 days, but for 3 months. But the issue with Phelps is that he was suspended beyond the window of competition or before it. So an example here would be if Sha'Carri Richardson was a pop positive for weed back in May, and the suspension started on May 28th and ended June 28th, then she'd be fine. She could still go to the Olympics if she's able to make qualifying rounds or whatever. She'd still be able to go because it's not barring her from the Olympics. It's only a 30-day suspension. And I think Phelps is the reason why it was reduced from 3 months to 30 days. Because if it was still 3 months, there'd be no chance of Sha'Carri Richardson going to the Olympics, because the 3 months would take up the entirety of the Olympics. Like I said, it's July 23rd to August 8th. So if you got suspended on June 28th, that 3 months, it took up your entire time. So she actually got less time than what Phelps got, but unfortunately, she decided to smoke weed at the worst possible time. Now, she has owned up to what she did. She says, it's my fault. I apologize. I'm sorry to everyone, but this is just what I did. It won't happen again. So she apologized for it and is not trying to say, oh, it's the white man's fault. It's this, it's that. It shouldn't be. It's her fault. She owned up to it. So people trying to make excuses for her. Well, she's not offering them for herself, so why are you trying to offer the excuses, huh? You know what the rules are. Some may not like it. Some are going to say, well, it's legal, ABL. Well, not really. It's legal in certain states. It's still not legal federally, but that doesn't even really matter. The legality of it in the U.S. is irrelevant because the IOC is behind the decision. That's the International Olympic Committee. They're not governed by the U.S. at all. And it's not even the issue of legality because ain't nobody going to jail over this. That's not what's happening. Ain't nobody about to get locked up. It's just a matter of the IOC has rules. Now, some of these rules do contradict, and I'm not going to deny that because, like I said, you could be a biological man who identifies as transgender competing against biological women in the Olympics, according to the IOC. That's not fair, and I agree with that. However, the rules are the rules. It is what it is. You can fight against the rules, but to just break them and expect to not be punished or to not be sanctioned does not make any sense at all, right? And I would say that the whole thing about the transgender stuff, that's not right. That needs to be rescinded. But as far as the banned substances, I mean, if we say weed is okay, then what else is okay? Where do we draw the line? How about steroids, human growth hormones, crack, meth? I'm not saying these things are the equivalent to weed, but my point is, when you're talking about banned substances, where do we stop? And again, this is the International Olympic Committee. So some of these countries, you can't even, if you get caught with weed in some of these countries that compete in the Olympics, you might go to the penitentiary. You're talking about big rocks, little rocks. So you have to take all of the nations in the world into consideration when you're talking about the Olympics. Now, if you don't want to compete there, I get it. If you want to try to lobby to get the rules changed, like the whole 30-day thing, which was 3 months, that's a different story. But the rules are what they are, which is why there was no excuse really given from Sha'Carri Richardson. Now, she did say there's a reason why. I don't really see it as an excuse, really. I just see it, this is what happened. Now, right before that race that I saw on like June 19th, she said her biological mother had died. Now, I think the reason why when you see the news about this, they say biological mother, the mother did not actually raise her. Her aunt and her grandmother raised her. So when you see her go up in the stands and hug her grandmother, that's because that's like her mother. Her and her aunt, that's like her mother right there. Her biological mother did not raise her. Just for context, I'm not saying that she doesn't know her. I'm just saying that's just what it is. Now, she said after she found that out, she smoked weed to cope with it. Now, I don't know who needs to hear this, but that's the absolute wrong thing to do. You don't want to do that. When you're dealing with loss, when you're dealing with a traumatic event, you want to be able to deal with that in a drug-free way. Talk to somebody, get a therapist, and if your therapist says, well, take this drug, take this opiate derivative, take this depression medication, don't even do it. Don't do it. Because I've seen that happen. I've seen somebody get put on depression medication and die from suicide. So don't do that. But I've been to rehab before. Well, not me. I'm not a drug person. I've never been to rehab, but I've been to a rehab facility because a family member, I took them there. And when I went there, I spoke to people that were there, people that were dealing with whatever kind of drugs they were dealing with. Again, not me. I've never been to rehab for no drugs or nothing like that. I'm not a fiend, never been a fiend. I'm just saying I've been to the actual place and I've talked to the people. And the majority of those that were there had wound up there because they had some kind of traumatic experience in their life that they turned to drugs to try and deal with. One guy, his daughter had got murdered. Just real crazy situation. And he couldn't deal with the pain. He started with alcohol and weed to try and just numb himself. That's what he always had used. That's what he always had known. But it wasn't working. It wasn't strong enough. So then it became, okay, let me go ahead and get to this crack, this meth, heroin, whatever he can get his hands on, he was using to try and numb that pain from his daughter's murder. Now, obviously, this stuff didn't work. So he spiraled out of control, lost everything, wound up in the rehab to try and get his life back, right? So if you are using drugs trying to deal with some kind of pain, like Sha'Carri said, that's the wrong way to go because you could end up being on the street as a fiend. A lot of these drug addicts are there because they got deep pain that they're trying to deal with that they're not successfully able to deal with. I'm not really sure how you're going to deal with it, but I know what you shouldn't do is drugs because you're going to end up worse than when you started. Now, hopefully she's able to get beyond this and she's able to deal with her mother's death. but the drugs ain't the way to go. And I think she'll be all right. She said it won't happen anymore. I took her by her word, and I want to see her succeed. And I think that she will still be able to compete, just not in all of the races, because like I said, it's only a 30-day suspension, not a total ban. Some may not like it, some may disagree, but it's the IOC. They got their own rules. You can lobby them potentially, depending upon who you are, to change the rules. But as of right now, it is what it is. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that the rules should be changed? Should you be able to smoke weed? How about steroids? Where do we draw the line as far as banned substances? Whatever your thoughts on that are, let me know in the comments below. How do you feel about what she said, saying, hey, you know, my biological mother passed away and I couldn't really deal with it. I turned to weed, try and deal with it, try and cope. Is that a smart thing to do? Would you recommend somebody do something like that? You guys pretty much know where I'm at. I think the rules are the rules. If you don't like them, I understand, but that's the game. Okay, you can lobby to get them changed, but that's the rules. People got their own things they got going on, their own committees. That's just what it is. And please, 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 if you're dealing with some kind of traumatic experience, this is just me talking to y'all. I'm not sure who's listening. I'm not sure who needs to hear it, but don't get into drugs to try and mask your pain. Deal with your pain. It's all right to be sad. It's all right to have a bad day. But once you get into the drugs and you altering your mind and it's not really working and you want to go deeper and deeper, you're going to be in a very dangerous situation. And I don't want any of you guys to be in that deep, dark hole. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.